Okay. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Secret Sauce. My name is Harry Nierberg. I'm the CAP advisor at Miami Palmetto Senior High School. We're going to have a few difficulties right now, a little bit as we get adjusted, and people are still coming in. I just want to introduce everybody, our panel of experts. And once again, I'm sorry for if I sound like I'm being stuttered, but I am watching people come in. And let me start by introducing the people on the panel. Okay, so Andres Levetman, is that how you say it? Andres, heading to Duke. Linda Dwyer, CAP interventionist at Miami Palmetto Senior High. Taylor Welpley is heading to West Point. Ethan Josephberg heading to Michigan. Robbie Mazer heading to Wash U. Jane Heiss to UCLA. Marina Sanchez heading to Harvard. Jay Pita, Wash U. Alexis Gracer, UC Irvine. Mike Zhao, University of Penn. Makeda Brown, University of Miami. Priscilla Bermudez, U Chicago. Sophia Vinuesa, Florida. And Kayla Kerman, Davidson. So I think that's everybody. And I'm going to go back to gallery for a second just so we can see everybody. And again, if anybody's watching, please turn your cameras off and we're going to keep trying to go from here. And I'm ready to get going. I think the panel's ready too. So all of us have gone through this year. It's been a very trying year. It's been one that has tested everybody's fortitude, and some of the students in this room have done their entire high school senior year at home, and some have been going to school every day in a very interesting setting. In the beginning, it was very scary in some ways, and I think you guys who made it through the whole year deserve a lot of credit. The ones who made it through the online, my school online, and actually kept studying, I give you guys a lot of credit too. The one thing I did notice, and I said it to the kids through the year, was that the only normal thing, it seemed normal through the year, was the college application process. It really didn't change. I mean, maybe everything was online when it came to interviews and school visits, but when it came to the application, everything was the same. The colleges didn't change very much. The big thing, maybe the biggest change that occurred, is that a lot of schools went test optional that never were test optional before. So that wasn't something we were ready for. And everybody, some of the people in this panel were so worried about their SAT, ACT scores a year ago that when it really came down to it, they didn't even need it. They got into the schools, which they are going to now, and did a great job just with their test optional, which means their application must have been amazing. Okay, so I guess I'm gonna, we did meet. I'm not gonna lie to you, to people in the watching this. We met and talked about some of the questions, and I think I may change some around a little bit and surprise them. So, I'm going to ask a couple quick questions. So I'm going to ask. Oh, let me ask Robbie, since I always choose a Silver Knight winner first. Okay, because Robbie did win Silver Knight this year in the field of social studies, I believe. Was it?
Yeah, right.
Congratulations. We also had 5 other honorable mentions, which we'll talk about in a second, who they are and everything. But Robbie, so can you tell everybody in a quick 30 seconds, and then maybe somebody else wants to follow up, how were you different in this process than you were when you were in 9th grade? Your dreams of your dream school, the desire to go to a highly selective university, and did you change during these 4 years? And then after Robbie, we'll go to a couple other people.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I entered freshman year really nervous. I always knew that I wanted to attend kind of a highly selective and a great university, but I also wanted a place where I could have a great social life, really integrate with the city around me, and a place where I could develop my interests outside of academics, whether it be music, photography, sports, music again. I really love music. Um, but yeah.
And are you different than some of the other students, do you think? And
I think everyone's got their unique drives and passions that really shape where they end up going to school. And I mean, for me, I definitely fell in love with St. Louis as a city. A lot of my interests just really meshed. Um, um, Whether it be the Loop next to campus with the local music scene or the food. It was really my passions that drove me there.
Thanks. Anybody else want to jump? Anybody else have something they want to say? Go, Andres.
Sure. So I'll start off by saying my initial drive, like freshman year, like Robbie, I was very nervous. I always knew I wanted to go to a selective university. But it was largely like family driven, just kind of like I want to go to a good college because I want to challenge myself. But I'd say as I like went further into high school and started doing research on universities, I grew to kind of like the idea of being surrounded by like smart, driven people, uh, while also having a social life and like experiencing the college experience. So I think like that's a big change for me, at least. I would say happened towards the end of junior year, um, and I would encourage like freshmen and younger people to kind of look into that, like what you want out of college besides just I want to go to a good school. Look into like what specifically would you want out of college.
Priscilla.
For me, freshman year, I'd say I changed a lot because freshman year, I didn't know if I would be able to go to a highly selective university. I didn't know if I'd be able to afford it. And throughout my 4 years, I researched scholarships, and that really helped me during my college application process and to be hopeful to be able to go to a highly selective university.
Thank you. I'm gonna take a quick little break for a second, a little commercial for a second, this because Priscilla just came on and talked. Priscilla is a QuestBridge winner. QuestBridge is a unique program, and it's not often we get winners. And she's heading to U Chicago. Priscilla, will you take 10 seconds, 15 seconds, just explain QuestBridge so people know what it is?
Yes, Questbridge is a scholarship for like mostly for first generation low income students, seniors. There's this match process where if you match to a school, it's like a longer application, and if you match to a school, you get a full ride. They pay for your 4 year education, and if not, like if you don't get that full ride scholarship, you could still have other opportunities where they connect you with colleges to get financial aid.
Great. And when did you decide you were going to do QuestBridge?
I decided junior year in Mr. Nirenberg's office when he informed me about that scholarship, and I decided I needed to try it out.
What's unique about this group of people, to the people who are watching, this sauce is definitely different than most other sauces. The class of 2021 had a lot of students who went early decision. In fact, I don't think I've ever had this many ED students in one panel. I usually try to just put one or two, but the students this year really did a lot of ED. So be aware that some of them had a different process than maybe your child may have. And for those who don't understand what ED is, let me ask somebody who did ED. Mike, you want to explain what ED is?
Sure, yeah. So what is early decision? Early decision is sort of an application process designed for students who really know they really want to go to a specific school. The way it works is that you apply early. So generally the normal application deadline for most schools is around early January. But for this one, you have to turn it in generally by November 1st. And also you have to sign a contract with you, your parents, and your counselor saying that if you get into the school, you're binded, which means that you have to go to that school if you get in. But I mean, I guess one good thing is that if you really want to go to that school, that's great because in that case, like it's great that you're going there. And so I generally recommend to only do early decision if you really know, like you did a lot of research in this school and this is like your dream school. Like I did early decision at the University of Pennsylvania because it's a school I've wanted to go to for a very long time. Otherwise, I don't really recommend it because of the fact that it's binding. So the only way you can break the contract is if the school cannot give you financial aid. But you probably can negotiate with that. So.
Okay, so let's go to somebody. So Ethan, tell me how you've changed since ninth grade. I saw your hand up there a little while ago.
So I think going into high school, I was one of those kids who was like, I want to go to a top university. I want to compete. And, I'm that's my spirit. I've always been a hard worker in school. And I remember, I think in sixth grade telling my mom, Stanford was my top choice and my safety school was Penn. I was going to go to a top school. And I think, especially throughout the college application process, and the more I learned about schools and started to visit, I personally found that a lot of those schools just didn't really fit me. And I became a lot more interested in what I could get out of a school, even if it's not the top. And I learned a lot about schools, and that helped me make my decision, which was a really big part of my final decision.
Does anybody else have anything they'd like to say? Taylor? Okay, so now I'll give another commercial break because I'm going to say call on Taylor. Taylor is our West Point appointee. So she went through a very competitive process with West Point. So, so as you continue, I have to at least throw you, give you credit for what you did as an amazing job getting in the West Point. It's very, very competitive. So go away with a question about how you were different.
Yes. So starting in my freshman year, I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do. And in 10th grade, I really found out about the service academies, and I decided that that's what I wanted to do with my life and make a career in the military. And the biggest thing I learned, and that really made me different on the application process, was that you don't have to participate in activities or do things that everyone else around you is doing. Find something that you truly love and that you're passionate about it, and capitalize on that, because I think that's what is definitely going to set you apart during the application process when you're passionate about what you're doing.
Anybody else have any input? Jade?
I would say that I definitely changed my mind throughout high school when it came to deciding about my college classes and where I thought that I wanted to go. Throughout my entire life, I've had my heart set on Georgetown. I ended up at WashU. But I think that in a city that I felt like it had everything I wanted to study social, and it had everything that I wanted in terms of being in the center of politics, international relations. As I started to do my research and visit different schools and learn about them, I started to realize that I could pursue my passions in a lot of different schools and a lot of different places. And even though you may have that dream school, you can still find like your dream college experience in a place you didn't anticipate.
Okay. Anybody else? Go ahead, Jane. By the way, I'm flipping back and forth, and I apologize for the unprofessionalism, but I want to put the focus on the speaker. So if I don't see your hand up, it's because I'm switching you. So go, Jane.
Okay, well, initially, so my family they're huge Gator fans, so I thought I would end up at UF. And then I ended up eating to Vanderbilt, got rejected. And then I honestly never even considered UCLA as an option because I think they had 166,000 applicants this year, the most of any school in the country ever. And so on the day that decisions came out, I wasn't even nervous because I just assumed I wasn't getting in at all. So I had like a spasm like when I got in. So just as like a heads up, you honestly, there is a chance you have absolutely no idea where you will end up, because that is what happened to me. I like genuinely could not have guessed in a million years that this is where I would be going. So if you end up somewhere where you never thought you would be, that's completely normal and nothing to freak out about.
Anybody else before we keep going? Okay, go, Kayla. Okay, one more. I guess we'll get all commercials done right away. Kayla's going to take a second after she answers the question to talk a little bit about Posse. She was one. We had 4 Posse finalists. We had 4 Posse winners, and she's going to tell you a little after she answers her own individual question. She's going to tell you a little bit about Posse, especially if you have a freshman or a sophomore parent. If you're a freshman or sophomore parent, it's something you can really look into for the following years. Kayla, you're up.
Hi, I'm Kayla. So for me, going into freshman year, I think that the only thing I focused on was Florida schools because that's all I've known and I grew up here, so it felt the most comfortable. But as I started doing more research, I realized that smaller schools that maybe not everyone knows or has heard of could have just as much potential and fit all of your interests and needs that you want for college. And so that's why I went through the Posse process, because they do have smaller schools that are just as prestigious. And that's why I ended up at Davidson, because it just felt perfect. And so Posse originated in 1989, and basically a student dropped out of school, and he said that I never would have dropped out of college if he had his posse with him. So that's where it originated. And there are 5 out-of-state colleges that Posse Miami has partnered with. And it's basically a process that takes place in a really unique way, known as the dynamic assessment process, which we call DAP. And it's a 3-part process, which you're evaluated on who you are as a person, your academics, your leadership in the community and in your school. And it's super awesome because not only are you making friendships before you get on campus, while on campus, but it's also what they offer after, because Posse scholars have access to internships, jobs, an alumni network for the rest of your life that you just hold close to your heart.
Thank you. Okay, so I think a couple of you have not spoken on this particular question, so let's go with Alexis.
I would say that I changed a lot freshman year, like to now, because I thought like freshman year I was gonna be going. I think I wanted to go to like the more prestigious colleges because that was what was being talked about around me. So I didn't really think about like other schools or like other opportunities outside of Ivy League schools, because that's like all I really heard about. And I was like, let me look at schools that aren't Ivy League schools, but are still like offer good education. And I applied to all of them. And I didn't think I was going to be in California either because it's very far from home. But now I am going and I'm very excited.
And I think Marina.
Yeah, so I don't think I changed much. I always really had a mindset of going to a top university. It was just like a goal of mine, really like persistent, hardworking person. But I think like socially, I did change, and I did start off with the mindset of I thought I was going to UF, which is where my brother goes and where basically like my family kind of like wanted me to go to, you know, being like with the older brother and everything. But it became a reality when I actually started getting into schools.
And Makeda, I think you're the last one for this question. We're not going to have everybody answer every question, but I thought this was an important one.
So my freshman year, I was dead set on going to New York. I did not want to stay in Miami. New York was my favorite place in the US to go. And then I looked at all the schools I was really interested in and realized I didn't want to go to school in New York. I just wanted to live and enjoy New York. So I decided to stay here and go to University of Miami.
So, and yeah, so one more time, I'm going to have a hand view, so I want people to see. How many of you did early decision? So we have an idea, so you guys can see how many did early decision. Okay, and I'm going to real briefly just go, I'm not going to keep it on gallery for a second. Yeah, can we just go through the list on how many schools you guys applied to? Ethan, number.
I applied to 9.
Jane.
18.
Andres.
And was 12, but got into Duke, so 2 at the end of it.
Linda. No, I'm going down the list. I'm only kidding. Taylor.
16 with 2 service academies included.
Robbie.
I only applied to 4 before I heard back from Washington.
Kayla.
14 before I ED'd.
Okay, Sophia.
20.
Priscilla.
Because of the Questbridge process, I ED'd 5 schools, but I matched with U Chicago and I applied to 2 Florida schools.
Mike.
Around 5 or 6.
Okay. Alexis.
16.
Jade.
10.
Marina.
15.
And Makeda.
4.
Okay. So it gives you an idea, like you see as, you know, it doesn't have to be a huge amount. It can be some, you know, I think the world's record ever was, for me, was about 40. I saw a kid do once. It gets a little crazy. There's a lot of essays to write. But making a college list is super important. It looks like I just got a little comment. Mike, you look like you wanted to say something.
Oh no, I'm fine.
Okay. You want to ask the next question, Mike?
Sure, yeah.
Ask somebody a question. Let's do something a little different. We've never done that before. Mike's going to take over and ask a question.
Oh, I asked a question to somebody. Like,
You're the one that's going to ask somebody else a question. Yeah.
Okay, so let's see. Let me ask. I'm gonna ask.
I like seeing Mike Zal not be able to not know the answer. Come on, Mike.
I'm gonna ask Taylor a question. So Taylor, I'm just wondering, when did you really? It's because you're the only one who applied to service academies in this panel. I'm just wondering, when did you really know you wanted to join the military? Because you're going to West Point, is that correct? And then what were the things you had to do in order to apply to a service academy for anybody else who's interested in applying to service academies in the room?
That's a really great question, Mike. So I knew that I wanted to apply to Service Academy back in 10th grade. I was also very grateful to see my brother go through the process as well. He currently attends West Point and will be entering his junior year this upcoming year. And I knew I wanted to apply to Service Academy because I knew I wanted to serve my country. And in the future, upon graduation, I hope to commission as a second lieutenant. Well, I will commission as a second lieutenant in the United States Army. And I hope to branch aviation and become a Black Hawk pilot. And the Service Academy process is actually a lot different from a typical application. So in your junior year, beginning of junior year, I would definitely recommend, if you're interested in a Service Academy, applying to the Summer Leaders Experience programs, whether it be Air Force, Navy, West Point. And it's a really great opportunity to go to a Service Academy for a week and experience a life as a cadet. And then after that, you begin your application in March and they approve you, and the full application process begins right in July. And that consists of a physical assessment. You do need a congressional nomination from a senator or a congressperson in your area. And lastly, you need a medical. So all those things combined go into get into a service academy, and that makes up the process.
And just so you should know, no pressure. Somebody from the West Point Parents Club is watching this. Okay, let's talk about planning. So you're a freshman, and you have these dreams about going to college, and you have course selection coming up, and you hear all the pressure about taking AP classes, and you start making a plan for the dream college, whatever you're going to do. Let's talk about the process about applying to college, creating that map to get to the college you want to get to. How many AP classes you would have to figure you'd have to sign up for, to just take too many. So Ethan, why don't we start with you?
So I took 19 AP classes and 2 dual enrollment classes in high school.
Was there a plan? Was it a
Honestly, it was always just kind of take as many as I can. I just wanted to challenge myself, and that's what I did. It was never like, but actually I do regret it a little bit. I think it's not absolutely necessary, and there were some cases where I didn't have to do it, but that's what I did. I survived it, and that was always the goal, just kind of take whatever I could.
So who had a plan? Anybody in the group actually sit and plan it? Robbie?
Yeah, I want to bounce off what Ethan kind of said. Kind of flashback 4 years. I remember very vividly sitting in the Palmetto Auditorium as either freshman year or an 8th grader and listening to the secret sauce, where I heard all these students talk about how many APs they took, and a student said that they took 19 APs. And my mom immediately leaned over to me and said, "Don't worry, you'll never take 19 APs." And we both laughed. And fast forward 4 years, I took exactly 19 APs in a dual enrollment class. But I do want to stress, back then it did stress me out a little, and it did force me to sit down, and I did kind of plan every class that I was going to take through high school. But that was not necessary at all. I mean, it was nice. I like to think I'm an organized person, so it helps me. But I have friends who took more and who took less, who got into their dream schools, or took more and didn't, or took less and did. So don't stress too much about it. Kind of focus in on the areas that you like, and whether they're AP or not, look towards those directions.
Thank you. Makeda, I saw you had a look like you wanted to say something.
So I knew early on what I wanted to study in college, and I curated whatever AP classes I was going to take based on that and how interested I was in the class. So, for instance, I took psychology and biology because I knew that I was interested in both those science classes and that I would pass them, and they both go towards my major, which is biology, and a minor in psychology.
Okay, Andres?
Yeah, so I agree. You feel some sort of like pressure, I guess. Like I had the same experience as Robbie actually, with like the secret sauce kind of pressuring me to take a lot. I ended up taking 18 in a dual enrollment. But what I'd recommend to people is challenge yourself to whatever you would want to pursue. So like Makeda said, she knew what she wanted. Challenge yourself in that respect. This goes for APs and for not APs. Take what classes you're interested in, even if you don't really want to go into a field like that, maybe just for curiosity, and do as much as you can. But if you are gassing out, like your dream college is not going to care if it's like one more AP, you know, like do what you want, do what you're comfortable with. And yeah, you should challenge yourself, but don't feel the pressure to take 20 APs or the most APs in your class. I don't think that's necessary to get into college by any means.
Can I add something onto what Andres said about the last part?
Okay, and then after you, Jade.
So about Andres, he says, don't take an extra AP just because it's an AP. Another tip I'd like to give is you might not want to take like maybe just an AP just because you think it's an easy AP, like something you're not interested in, or just because other people say, oh, it's like an easy A. Because in some cases, if it doesn't mirror like your interest or path, like some colleges might suspect that, like especially if you take easy dual enrollment classes just because they're like a free A. Colleges are sometimes good at spotting that.
Thank you. Jade?
I think I don't want to echo too much for other what you guys are also saying, but I think that it is important to challenge yourself and try out things you're interested in, but not to overwork yourself. And if you're following your interests, even though you don't know what you want to do specifically in the future, but you just take things that like spark your interest in classes that seem that you would enjoy the academic environment, your resume is going to build itself. You know, I never took an AP science. I absolutely despise science. I took a lot of history courses and things like that, and my resume ended up building itself. So I was able to branch out and challenge myself, but not push myself to do things that I didn't want to do.
Marina, then Jane.
So I think basically what everyone else has been saying, I would take classes that really spark your interest. So I was opposite of Jade. I was like a STEM kid. So I took AP Chem and I took the calc classes and the comp sci classes because that's what I liked. But so I didn't take the AP Euro classes or any of the history classes because really that's not what I was interested in. So my AP classes and basically all the classes I took throughout high school really reflected the activities that I was doing outside. So any of my extracurriculars or any competitions that I was doing in school, they kind of looked hand in hand. So when I was applying to schools and I did my major as computer science, it really showed them that I'm not just coming in as a computer science kid because I don't know anything about it. I'm coming in because I have my background experience in it from taking those classes and also doing the competitions.
Great.
So if you kind of have like a vague idea of what you want to do or what you want to major in, I would say to make sure that, so a lot of schools will take AP scores and then you get to save money and you get out of some of like the entry level courses. So if you take a bunch of AP classes just because you think they look good and then you go into a specific major, there's a chance that you don't get to use any of those credits that you worked really hard for. So that's just kind of another reason to take classes that you're interested in, because those will actually benefit you a lot more in college, because those are the credits you can actually apply, as opposed to having just taken a bunch of things that you weren't interested in and now they have nothing to do with your major.
Great. Sophia, last one for this one.
So I didn't take 19 APs. I took around 13. I wasn't really taking the AP class because it was an AP class. I was taking it to expand my knowledge on that certain subject. So, for example, sophomore year, I took pre-AP Chem, and I decided, okay, chemistry might be something that I want to study. So I'm going to take the AP class next year just to see just more information on that topic. And then I ended up figuring out that that's not what I want to study in college. So overall, I felt like it helped me figure out what I want to major in college. And I know that it will still change in college, but it helped me figure out what I want to go into college studying.
Thank you. And so, are there anybody else? Because I'm going to say my 2 cents. Anybody else? Because I'm going back and look at everybody. Okay. So this is probably the last time I'll say these words. Okay. So the whole idea when you're doing course selection and when you're looking at the colleges that you want to study, this is the counselor perspective. And these guys have heard me say this a million times. You take the most rigorous selection of classes that you can possibly take. And you do, as long as you can do well and still be a teenager and still be able to do service and still be able to hang out with your friends and still be challenged academically, everything does work out in the end. And I do believe that formula does work. And probably maybe Mike Sal's going to disagree with me, but only because he likes to disagree with me. But that is the key. And if we're looking at no matter what school we're looking at, as your child may be looking at, that is the key when it comes to course selection. And there's nothing wrong with actually sitting down and making a roadmap to getting to where you want to go. And the goal may be an individual school, but it also just may be getting into a great college. Mike, how'd I do on that one?
You did great. I love your response.
Okay. All right. Can we talk a little bit about service? Since I brought it up, look at Miss Dwyer loves talking about service. You guys juniors next year, that's all you're going to hear is service, service, service. I know we have some Silver Knight people in this panel, and if some of you have some projects you'd like to talk about, raise your hand and let's go to it and talk a little bit about projects. Andres, go, and then Robbie, then Kayla.
Sure. So as far as service goes, I wouldn't worry too much about the number of hours. I think that's a misconception. You don't need 1,000 hours to get in or 2,000 hours, whatever. If you want to do service, I think it's a great thing and you should do something you're interested in. So for me, I did 2 things mainly. One was Tutoring for Tomorrow. For those of you who don't know, it's a nonprofit tutoring organization where, we tutor kids, and then with the money, we either reinvest into our own programs for education, or we donate it to local nonprofits relating to education. So I thought that was something that, like, me personally, I felt passionate about and I learned a lot from. And then the other thing was I coached an Odyssey of the Mind team. It's something that I did growing up, and then being able to teach younger kids that was something that I enjoyed and I wanted to do that. So I would recommend you doing stuff like that, not just for the hours themselves, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think Andres touched up upon something really good there, and it's not about the quantity, but the quality of service. I grew up in a family where community service was, from a very young age, always something that we did. I grew up going to the Chapman Homeless Shelter, and it was in 7th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade when I went with the science teacher from Palmetto Middle, and she brought me around one of the times she stocked books in the family dorm units. And one of the times when we were talking to the families, I asked one of the mothers who had just opened up about how they had lost her home and how her children had come back to find their belongings just on the pavement in the rain. And she told me that one of the things they missed the most was their pillow. And 6th, 7th grade Robbie, it's like, oh, let's have a pillow party. And from there, my project Solution Youth grew. But it's really about, well, I didn't start this project, wake up early Saturday mornings to drive down to Homestead to a homeless shelter or collect hundreds of pillows because I thought a university was going to like to see that on a resume, but because I saw something and I felt something. It wasn't I saw and I did it. I saw and I felt something. Finding that service thing that really calls to you, that it really excites you to go out and make a difference. I think that's really important.
Great. Kayla.
So coming in as a freshman, it can be kind of stressful because you're worried about academics and making friends and then the community service. But Palmetto, all of Palmetto's clubs offer a lot of different community service opportunities. So not only are you involved at school, but you're also getting the community service hours that you may want. So I found a lot of community service opportunities through the clubs, but I also founded my own nonprofit organization in 9th grade. helping foster children. And basically, how I started it was just reaching out to family and friends. But it's really easy to grow on a community service project just by starting on social media and making an account where you can reach out to people who live across the street from you who live in another state, and just spread the word and make sure you advocate for something that you're passionate about. Because at the end of the day, when you go to write your college essays or you do an interview, someone will know how genuine you are with what you care about. And so that's what's most important with your community service.
Sophia?
So for me, with community service, I was a part of this organization called the Youth Advisory Council. And within that organization, we were given so many different opportunities for community service that didn't necessarily feel like community service. It just was fun to get involved in the community and to get other teens in the community and other students at Palmetto involved in many different events. Like Relay for Life would give community service hours, but it was just so fun being there with all those people and so many other events, Earth Day events, other events that we came up with. And it was just a good way to get other people involved and to get other students that weren't necessarily part of the Youth Advisory Council, their community service hours in a fun way that wasn't necessarily, oh, it's just community service.
And anybody else? Because I'm gonna tangle this with something else. But go, Mike, and then we'll go.
So I will say, one thing I would say is that to do something that you're very passionate about. If you're concerned about hours, if you do something that's very passionate, the hours will build itself, essentially. I was really passionate about teaching. I really before in freshman year, I was still debating whether to go into industry or to academia. So I really liked opening clubs in different elementary schools and teaching kids since freshman year. Over the course of my 4 years, I founded something called Explained, which we create after-school clubs to help younger children learn stuff like math and computer science for free. And so yeah, over the years, I was just very passionate about this, and I was able to build up over like 900 or 1,000 hours. As I like to say, the best community service project is not one that may be the most complex one. It doesn't have to be like technologically advanced or very like sophisticated. It's one that I believe that you're very passionate about. Because if you have a passion in doing something, you're going to do it well regardless.
Thank you. Jade, did I hear Jade and then Jade and then Marina and Jane, and we're gonna then go to another topic.
I would say my biggest advice when it comes to service is not to do something for college and building like how appealing you look to a school on paper, but to do it because it's genuinely something that's really important to you. And it won't feel, it's going to be something that genuinely interests you and you're going to put hours and time into and you're going to enjoy. My service project was something that lied very close to my heart. I was able to donate a lot of technology to a town in the outskirts of Peru to provide education for students. And I think a lot of people get scared, like that things seem a lot harder than they are. But if you really get like your community engaged and work with people, things will happen easier than you anticipate. And because you're interested in it, it comes to you like easily, if that makes sense.
Perfect. Was it Jane?
I think it was me after. So I think basically the same thing that everyone's been saying is to have a passion for something. Don't do a project because you think that college admissions officers are going to think it looks good. It also shines through when they're reading your essays. They can see through if you're not really passionate about something. An experience I had with that was I was doing mock interviews before I had any real college interviews. And my interviewer told me that when I talked about my service project, which was Tutoring for Tomorrow, which Andres had explained before, I was president of for 4 years. And like, I also like got involved like in 8th grade when like the high schoolers would tutor me. But anyway, this interviewer told me that my eyes really lit up when I was talking about this. So don't be superficial when you're doing your projects. Really find a passion and just like pursue that. Don't do it because you think it's going to look good. Because if you're really passionate about something, you can make it look good.
Thank you. That's so true.
Okay. So last year during quarantine, so service projects can literally be like whatever you want them to be. They can be weird or funny or creative. So last year I put on a virtual talent show with my friends and we held it on Facebook Live, and we reached out to this company in New York when New York City was like the hotspot for Corona last year. And so we reached out to this place that was providing free meals for healthcare workers. And so we like got in touch with them through Instagram, and we held a Facebook Live and like had people from all over like Pinecrest and Palmetto Bay and Cutler Bay all send in videos. And then we like picked a winner, and then we had Whip and Dip sponsor us, and we gave out gift cards to the winners. So like whatever you think of, even if you think it's like funny and no one's going to participate, people will. Like you just send it out, post it on Facebook, get it everywhere. Just have like honestly have your parents bombard their friends because they will show up for you. So also Palmetto is a really great way to get in contact with people. So like I told my teachers about it, like Miss Marseille showed up to my Facebook Live. So just get the word out to everybody. Don't ever feel shy. If you want to do something, just DM people, email them, call them, because people are usually really willing to help you out.
Okay. And I think Ethan wanted to say something, but after Ethan, I want the queen of passion of community service to speak for a second, and that's Miss Dwyer. Go ahead.
So one thing that I didn't know until I actually started applying to colleges was that on the college application, you have an activities section where you write like 100 characters or something about each of your activities. You list what you are, and then you have your college essays. And, you know, the essays are where your passion for your community service project really comes into play. Because when an admissions officer is reading through your activities section, they say, okay, cool, cool, cool. And then it's important to have something that you really care about when you're doing your community service. And you can show those admissions officers, I really love this. This is why I'm doing it. This is why I want to continue to do it. And this is why it makes me a better applicant. So that's a big part of it. Have something you can write about and that you really do care about.
Ms. Dwyer.
So this is where I put my mommy hat on. You know, I've had so many of these conversations with kids all along, and we've been watching The Secret Sauce for years. And I love each of you is passionate. You really are, and it comes through, and I know you, and those are facts. But I know there are a lot of kids watching this because I have watched them and heard them and spoken to them that aren't passionate about anything. The word passion freaks people out. So like, that's nice for all these amazing rockin' kids, but I'm not passionate about. How do I know my passion is? And so for people listening to this, if you're not passionate as a 14-year-old about anything other than like, you know, Netflix and video games, you know, just, you don't have to be passionate about it. You just can like it. If you play baseball, do something with your team, or don't do science if you hate science, right? You don't have to have an oboe concert if you don't know how to keep a beat. So for those of you that don't have a passion right now, don't let that put you off. Just do something in your lane. If you like kids, do something with kids. If you like pretzels, make pretzels and sell them. And you know, that's all. So just start small. If you think I'm not passionate, don't freak out. You know, that if that's too high of a bar, then just do something. That's all.
Fantastic. That's a great thing that's for kids. For kids that don't have it, it's so important. And you know what, Palmetto, we're so lucky because we can take, because colleges, and Ethan, I think, brought a little bit into it when he started talking about the activities section and the service sections, and they are separate. And some of you have, and maybe it's a chance to give a shout out to an organization in our school that may have had a big impact on you. You know, again, I'm not looking at you individually, but if you have a certain club or an organization you like to, that really got your, maybe passion is the wrong word, but piqued your interest, got you going, got you involved, because being involved. So I'm real quickly looking at, I see Jane's hand going up, and then Jade, and Priscilla, you better talk about newspaper, but go ahead. So I'm going to keep going on that. Let's go with a few. If any of you have to talk about things at Palmetto.
Okay, well, I just wanted to say really quickly, so I was co-president of NHS this year, and what Meyer was talking about, the whole passion thing, if you don't know where to start, I just want to say joining NHS is a really great way to like kind of open your eyes up to what other people are doing, because NHS every month, like our members just come up and introduce projects, and then everyone gets involved. And then that's a really great way to see what other people are doing, and like you can ask them if you can join in on their project, or like you see something they're doing, you're like, oh, I want to do that somewhere else or do something similar to them. So if you don't know what you're doing, like ask around, see what other people are doing, and then maybe you'll be like, oh wait, that's really cool, I really want to get involved with that too. So like joining things at school can introduce you to new people, and then you'll find something that you are passionate about. Just because you don't know what you want to do yet doesn't mean that it isn't waiting there for you. So if you join new things, see what other people are doing, then it'll come to you.
Okay, and Priscilla, go. So I'm going to force you to do it.
Okay, so for me, end of sophomore year, I wanted to find like new passions within school, and I heard about newspaper, and I love writing, so I thought it'd be something I could try out. And once I joined, I realized I really enjoyed it, and I think for everyone in this panel, it's like a huge thing that if you have like a slight interest in something, try it out, because you might be really passionate about it once you figure out that you like it.
Anybody else? Go, Jade.
I like what Priscilla said about trying things out. I think it's so important to dip your toes into things. I think a great resource for that at Palmetto is the club fair. When I was a freshman, I joined like 6 clubs. I was so interested in a ton of little things. But then as you transgress through your years, you'll start honing down. I ended up honing down on one club and ended up being the president of it and finding out what I was really interested in. So it's about trying things out and realizing what fits for you. And then if you really like it, you can take leadership roles and really engage with it.
Anybody else? Marina?
Yeah, I think it's good not to be afraid to go to club fair freshman year and join clubs, because I was definitely more of a antisocial person my freshman year. So I didn't want to like go out and join a bunch of clubs, but my older brother did make me join one club, which was Mu Alpha Theta, which is kind of like math honor society in school. And there, like, I found my entire friend group of people that I really like grew up with like throughout high school. And then from there, like a bunch of like different opportunities just like presented themselves with like competitions, and I ended up being president of that club. So take chances like when you have them, like jump at every opportunity and don't be scared to fail, because I mean, failure is a part of life. So just like get out there.
Sophia, I hear you want to talk.
So going in freshman year, I signed up for I don't know how many clubs, and at every single club fair after that, I put my name down for every single club that I walked up to their booth for. And I probably ended up sticking with maybe like one club, which is newspaper, which actually was so much fun and it helped improve my writing. But just going and putting yourself out there and showing up to maybe the first meeting of every single club, you don't have to love it. Just putting yourself out there, you might meet someone in the club and you both end up not liking the club, and then you have a new friend, and then you guys go find a new club that you guys want to be a part of. But just going and putting yourself out there is something that Palmetto really is just amazing at, with how many opportunities and how many different clubs that they have to offer.
Anybody else would like to talk about anything that perked their interest? Because like I think somebody said about National Honor Society, not everybody could be a National Honor Society, but usually someone could be in another honor society or another group. Anybody have anything else to say before I go on my next subject? Makeda?
Okay, so the 2 clubs that I mainly sticked with were HIP and sports medicine. Sports medicine.
Time out for 1 second. Can you please tell the people what HIP is? Because they don't know acronyms.
So HIP is the Health Informations Program, which I'm the secretary of. Basically, they get juniors and seniors to go through freshman class and teach them about health in general, mental, physical, and sexual health, so that they can go through high school and understanding how to avoid certain situations, how to deal with them. And so HIP also gives you hours, but I love teaching like other kids and giving them information, because it reminds me I'm an older sister and I like to make sure that my siblings are safe as well. So I kind of felt like I was teaching these little kids too. But in sports medicine, freshman year, I wasn't sure what type of medicine I wanted to go into. And at the time I was in physical training, and it gave me hands-on experience. And I figured out that it's not something I want to do, but I did enjoy it while I was there.
Great. Anybody else before I give a little plug for something else?
Wait, I wanted Makeda to give a little bit more of a plug about sports medicine, because I don't know if everyone knows how involved these kids are with the games and stuff.
Oh, okay. So basically, for every sport, we make the waters, we make the ice packs. We also, if there are injuries, we have to stretch them out, put them on stem. as well as do ultrasounds. There's also the sports medicine sponsors Amazing Miss Ben's. You learn how to wrap sprained wrists, ankles, how to dress wounds properly. Like we do practically everything that doctors do, but we can't do everything because we're not licensed.
I got to tell you one thing. So I was in there one time. I've been in her room. She is the best kept secret in the school. And you even learned how to get somebody ready to be transported to a helicopter. I mean, I was watching them prepare them to do it. So it's a super club. And there's two clubs, there's two organizations that I can't believe we actually had conflicts to get tonight. But Drama's doing their senior night tonight. And, Drama, there's so many different families at our school that I'm going to talk about. And if you're a junior right now and you're trying to figure out what am I going to make my application look better and what can make me feel part of the community, you've been out of school for a year and a half. But, obviously not everybody can sing and not everybody can play music. But those are two unbelievable families we have in the school. Newspaper yearbook, unbelievable families, hip. And you can still jump in next year. I know the teachers are they're drooling for you all to come in and become involved next year. And being involved in school and the community is so important. So, unless somebody has something else to say, I have another topic I'd like to talk about. We ready?
You mentioned Model UN. You don't mind?
Go, whatever. I want you to pump it up.
No, I know. I'm sorry. I know we're going long with these questions, but I'm going to briefly mention it. Model UN. Personally, I found out I'm not too interested in international relations, but I want to say Model UN, I was able to, practice public speaking. For those of you who don't know, basically, Model UN is you enter a conference filled with a bunch of other students that represent either a country or a person, and you discuss some issues. So you might represent Argentina in a conference about climate change, or you might represent Harry Potter in an organization of like the Ministry of Magic, for example. I thought it was a really good opportunity for you to develop public speaking skills and networking skills, research, all that. And I think it's a misconception that you have to be interested in politics or something. I joined that freshman year, like many of you guys in Club Fair, and it just kind of stuck for that reason, not necessarily the politics of it all. So figured it deserved a shout out.
No, everybody, yeah, and absolutely. All these things that we have, and again, a year and a half, we've had a part-time school. The clubs are waiting for you guys, all of you who are watching this, to come and get involved in school because, it's hopefully in September, you'll have a brand new fresh start. Okay, next topic. First of all, before I go to the next topic, I did a poll before we came in. And I think, just so you should know, I think only 4 or 5 of our students here used IEC, independent counselors. Most of these kids did it by themselves, maybe with the help from an English teacher, maybe from a help from a counselor or parent. But these guys on this panel mostly did it themselves. And I have to tell you, even the ones that had private counselors, I know in the end did it themselves. And so what I want to talk about for a few seconds, and if any of you have any interesting story about your essay writing, who influenced you. I know the juniors that are watching this right now are dying. Common App just came out, same questions. The why did you want to, the why U Chicago, the why Penn question. Who wants to go and talk about their essay experience? And we'll go with Alexis first.
Okay. I didn't really know what I wanted to write my essay about, at all, because I was just very confused because I didn't have a lot of information. And so I had to do a lot of research by myself of websites that have tips or websites that are slowly going to help you figure out a topic to talk about. But the biggest thing that helped me was the people that I had around me, my friends, because I wasn't able to get a counselor outside of school. So I talked to Mr. Nuremberg and I talked to Ms. Dwyer, and my friends, we were all kind of there for each other, and we all kind of read each other's essays and we're you have a mistake here. This doesn't make sense. So it's all about also surrounding yourself with people that can help you or that are willing to help you. Even if you guys are applying to the same schools or whatever, it shouldn't all be competition.
Thank you. That's great. So when I heard from my other eyes watching this, that everybody sort of raised their hands on this one. So I'm going to take a quick glance at my screen and see who's available. Ethan, Jane, Andres first. Let's go with that one.
So my idea for my main Common App essay came at 3 in the morning, laying in my bed, trying to just brainstorm a topic. And I think the biggest tip that I could give is just talk about something that you could really tell a story about, and that will give an admissions officer an insight into your life and who you are. For me, I wrote about music, and I wrote about how my experience with music has impacted everything in my life, from the way I treat other people to the way I learn and do math and a bunch of different things. And it's just you want to write about something that you can go on and on and on about. And I think that's the biggest tip I could give. It's you're gonna come up with something. It's hard. You go through a bunch of different ideas, but one thing you're just gonna be like, oh, that's it. And it's gonna come to you, and you're gonna write about it, and it's gonna be amazing. And you can bounce off your peers and do a lot of different stuff. That's what I did. I had some friends read my essays and give tips and ideas on what they thought. And that's just kind of how I went about the process.
Andres?
Sure. So for those of you guys who don't know, there's two types of essays. There's the main personal essay that you write. It's one essay and it gets sent to all the schools that you apply to. And then there's the supplemental essays that are like individual to the schools, etc. So as far as the personal essay, I was told by someone, I don't remember, write the values or like the characteristics that you have that you want to show colleges, and then go off of that. And I wrote an essay and I didn't like it. I personally did not like it. And it was too formulaic. It was too structured to those things that I wrote down. And I ended up changing it, I think like 2 weeks before I submitted my Duke application. And I just, like Ethan said, I wrote about something I was passionate about something that reflected my personality. I wrote about karate and I wrote about Odyssey of the Mind kind of combined and how it affected my personality. So I just want to say that as far as a personal essay, write about yourself. And then if it ties into something cool, if not, just write about, make sure your personality shows on the paper. And as far as supplementals, try to be specific, especially the ones that are like, why Duke, why WashU, whatever. They get more qualified applicants than the amount that they admit. So being able to pinpoint, like, I will be involved in this, like, even if you're not 100% sure, being able to say, I will impact your school in this way, I think that's a good approach to it.
Alexis, do you have something you want to say? I see Makeda's got her hand up. I'm looking at the hands. Makeda?
So I wrote my essay based off of music because I knew that's what I was most passionate about going into school, and it wasn't showcased on my resume or anywhere else on my transcript. So I wrote about music and how it has impacted my life, how it helped me build principles that I implement now, and how it has also been like a family thing. My grandfather was a musician and also his father and stuff like that, and told a story about who I am.
Thank you. So someone jump in since I'm having trouble finding you guys on screen.
Taylor.
Thank you, Linda.
Okay, I can jump in. Thank you. So my personal statement definitely came a little bit different. I had written so many statements and I wasn't happy with them. I didn't think they represented who I was. And I actually used an essay I wrote as a supplemental as my personal statement. So West Point asked me what was one of the hardest things that I'd ever done, what was something that I struggled with. And I was a gymnast my entire life. And that was something I really wanted to write about because it shaped me as a person. So I chose to write about like a sport where I failed many more times than I succeeded and how that shaped my character. And I thought it really represented me, my beliefs, and my goals for the future. And that's how my essay came along. So it's okay to like start on the supplementals and then maybe you're going to find something for your main essay.
Great. That's a great suggestion. Anybody else?
I can talk. Yeah,
Go
I can
Sophia.
talk a little bit about this. So I wrote a couple of essays, and most of my essays were kind of just like the basic explaining like a story pretty much. But one of my essays I wanted to do differently, where I talked about myself and I compared it to layers of a cake, because I felt like that's something that they don't normally get. So I was saying like, oh, like the first layer of the cake is this about me. The second layer is this about me. And then I pulled it all together in the end. And I felt like that was more of an interesting thing, something that they wouldn't necessarily be reading. And it wasn't at all like any of my other essays. It did take me a really long time to get it just right to how I wanted it, but I felt like it was fun. And my friends that read it, they really liked it a lot. And it just made me happy reading it.
Robbie, then Jane.
So I know all of our responses must sound more or less the same, and you guys have heard a lot of information tonight. But this question, I think, is really important to stress because listen, a resume is always going to read like a resume, no matter what your resume says. It's a list of stuff that you've done. But the essay, it's how you show who you are. That's another thing I want to emphasize. The colleges, they don't want you to tell them who you are. They want you to show you. The writing that story. I'll tell you, mine was probably not at all what you would think. I wrote about how I worked at a summer camp, and within the first 5 hours of all my kids getting there, I was duct taped to a chair hanging outside off the porch. Clearly not what you want to probably market yourself as to a top university. But showing that story for me was how I showed how I deal with challenges, how I work through problems, and eventually it was a great year. I don't have the chair, but all my kids signed it. Anyways, I'm sorry. But really, that the essay is that place to show who you are, so that you literally jump off the page. You want to make sure that that college admissions counselor who wakes up every morning, drinks their coffee, and reads 500 essays or whatever it is, they really have to take a step back and say, wow, that kid is kind of amazing. So
Great
focus a lot on your essay, please.
Great suggestion. Marina, then Jade.
So a couple months back, my summer before my senior year, I did one of these summer programs, and we had admissions of schools like Harvard, USC, U Chicago come, and they actually told us the order that they read kids' college applications in. And I would say for almost all of them, the first thing that they read is your personal essay from Common App. So first off, the most important thing I think of someone's application, one of the most important things is going to be that personal essay. For me, I didn't write about some type of competition or any academic things that I did. I simply wrote about my neighbors, which I've grown up with my entire life and has been my entire life, and how it really shaped me as a person. So through my essay, I was able to show my sense of community and my intellectual curiosity. And I mean, it ended up working without me telling them that I have these grades and I do these competitions and I have this much hours for community service. And in the end, like I ended up getting letters back from schools, handwritten letters like from schools like Yale and Columbia, telling me, writing just about my essay, how they liked it, and it showed like a sense of community that they would want within their school.
Is that Jade next?
Yes. I think that a really important thing to take with you when you go into your college writing process is that it's not what you write about, it's how you write it. And I think Robbie and Marina really reflected that, like layers of a cake, camp counselor, it's not like your kind of college essay. And I think that the most important thing that you can do when it comes to thinking about these questions and trying to come up with an answer is have conversations with people and realize, oh, I really like to talk about this and that. And for me personally, I phoned a family friend and we were having a long discussion, and I pulled it up next to me. But after talking to him, I was able to just like sit down and write down a lot of ideas, and it helps you build what you want to talk about. And it's not a traditional process at all. It's very disorganized. It's very formulaic. And when you find something you're interested in, this maybe is slightly inappropriate, but my mom likes to tell me all the time when I would get overwhelmed with the college writing process is just vomit on the page. If you just vomit on the page, write about what you're interested in, you take some time and you end up molding it and you'll come up with something that you really, really like.
Great. Jane, then Mike.
So I went to a small Montessori school for 12 years. And so I'm the only person that I know that did that. So I was like, okay, that's pretty weird and unique. So I literally started out my personal essay talking about how like my favorite lesson was like the one where we used building blocks to learn how to count to 100, and how I would just like walk around the room every day and just pick something up new. And like, we don't have desks, we would sit on the floor in carpets and just like do whatever we wanted. And that's how you learn. So, and then I tied it into how I kind of use that approach to like Montessori learning and picking what you want to do when I was an editor-in-chief on the newspaper. So like if you can come up with something that's really unique to you and then tie it into how this has shaped you into a better person, do that. Because you don't need to like, do not just dump all like the impressive things about yourself into an essay. They just want to know about you. They don't want to necessarily know about all the things that you've done. They just want to get to know you because they'll see your resume. They'll see all the things that you have to input onto Common App. They will already see all of that. So your essay is now where you get to share about the weird things that you like to do or how, like, I don't know, you don't know how to ride a bike. I don't know, go for it. Like, just, I know how to ride a bike, but I'm just saying. So yeah, just like go for it. If just be weird, just do whatever you want.
Mike, and then anybody else?
Okay, so I think what everybody said was great in this room, but one main thing is why should you be very personal in your, not very personal, but have your personal statement be personal essentially. Well, colleges, one big thing they really care about is when they're reading your essays, they want to see how do you fit in this school, as in like why, like how would you fit in the school and what would you contribute to the community in the school, meaning like they want to see, are you going to be a good fit for the school? But not only are you going to be a good fit for the school, how will you contribute to the school? That's one really big thing. And that's why you really want to open up about your personality and your stuff. Because of course, a resume, nobody's going to really learn much about you. They might learn about your transcripts, the courses you took, but they're not going to really learn truly who you are. Second thing is, although a lot of people are talking about creative essays, you should do some research into the school before you try to take certain approaches. For example, you could learn so much about a school just by their essay prompts. Harvard, the fact that they don't even have an essay prompt, it's literally just submit any essay you've written before. They want you to be creative. They're opening that space for you. They care about the prose. They care about all of that. Stuff like MIT, where they literally have 100 words. Why MIT? They don't really care about the craft. They care more about the answer. Stuff like Penn, why Penn? They care about the research. Why do you care about their school? So there are a lot of different things you should first do before you tackle the essay, especially. The prompts could tell you so much and more research could tell you even more. So those are some of the tips I have for everybody. So.
And you'll have private sessions afterwards, correct? I've been picking on Mike since freshman year. So for the parents who don't understand our relationship, I'm sorry, but Mike's my favorite one to pick on. Anybody else have anything they want to put towards essays? And then I'm going to go on for another new topic. I feel like it's Jeopardy. Just you guys are giving the answers. Anybody else? Okay, go ahead, Ethan.
Yeah.
So everyone here has kind of talked about be very personal and open up about yourself, but it's not really such an easy thing to do. It's hard to just sit and tell your life story on a paper in 650 words. One of the things that I found helped me a lot was talking about an experience in my life or something that happened over a long period of time that shaped who I was. And you have to remember, the people reading your essay, they will probably never see what you look like. They don't know anything about you. You have 650 words to tell them who you are. And I think writing about how the world and your perspective on something has shaped who you are and your future and how you will continue to grow and develop is a really good way to start with that. So that's a cool thing. Also, like Jane kind of said, don't just tell everybody how great you are. In one of my essays, I talked about how I lost every student council election that I ever ran for. And I talked about how I turned that into a positive thing and I got involved. And it's great to be vulnerable. They want to see how you've learned and how you're going to adapt to life in college because college is not easy. And that's just another tip that I have. So, yeah.
And if I could give a suggestion, I remember the story because it was so important. One of our students a couple of years ago had this horrible relationship with a family member. And it really was that person's obstacle. And, she wanted to write about it. And she tried to write about it. It was just way too personal. She couldn't get past the anger. There was no lesson that she had learned. And I remember I know Mrs. Spivak and I tried to get her to tone it, to make it where it was a lesson. At the end, we said, that's it. You got to change it and go and do something totally different. And she wrote this most unbelievable artistic piece of, it was a piece of literature, was her essay. It was one of the other prompts that nobody else answered. And she did so well with that. It doesn't have to be an obstacle. It doesn't have to be a passion. It can be your own creativity. And don't forget that. For that, I'm really talking, for you juniors that are watching this right now and struggling with the idea, like, what am I going to write about? I don't have an obstacle. We don't want you to have an obstacle, if you don't have to have one. So anybody else have anything? Jane, I see that little hand going up.
Yeah, well, something I just wanted to add. Yeah, so I had a bunch of stuff that I could have written about, but you don't need, if you don't feel like you don't, okay, I don't want to make this sound crude or anything, but you don't need to put a sob story. They don't need to feel bad for you to let you into their school. You can just be you on the paper, and that can be enough. My essay, I was really sarcastic. I probably said a lot of weird things. I made it really funny because that's just I love being sarcastic. So probably every 3 lines, I made some sarcastic comment. You don't need to put in your deepest, darkest fears about the world and show them how hard your life has been and all these obstacles and struggles. You can just make it about you. You can say what you want to say. They don't need to pity you and feel so horrible for how hard your life has been to let you into school. You can just be you, and that will be enough to get you in.
Great. And I just want to give one last, before I get off this topic, and I'm sorry for taking so long on it, but last year people wanted to hear more about essays, so I figured I'd do it. But just remember, I don't know about other high schools, but I know the one thing about Palmetto is that you guys, and you heard it here tonight, they share, they peer review, they peer read. They could be competing to the same school and they do it. I can't say that for every high school. I don't know if all the other, I know some of my friends who work in other high schools, and I tell them our kids do that, but we do work together. Luckily, our English department does an amazing job of getting them to work on their essays. All right, we're not going to be able to let everybody talk about SAT and stuff like that, but let's do a quick, maybe 4 or 5 of you talk about SAT, preparing for the SAT, ACT, test optional. This was a whole different year. Maureen, I saw your hand go up right away when I said the word test optional. So, so go. Let's round robin that real fast.
Okay. So to start off, I am a horrible test taker. That is the thing. I have extreme anxiety when taking tests and I mess up. That's just how life goes. So I went test optional for every school that I applied to, except the Florida schools, which it was required. And I thought I was able to do that because I thought my resume and my Common App and my essays and everything else that I did throughout high school spoke for itself. I spent so many tears crying about SAT tests and ACT tests and jumping back and forth in between when I would only increase my score 10 points and then one every single test started getting canceled because of Corona. If you think yourself that your resume and your essays speak for who you are and the schools that you want to get into, you do not have to stress about a test score. I don't know how it's going to be in a couple of years, but I know at least for the incoming seniors this year that are now juniors, it is test optional. So it's not test option. It's actually test optional. If you want to be able to get into your schools, you do not have to submit a test score.
Anybody else? Anybody use Khan Academy? What other ways did you learn to get your scores better? Go, Kayla.
So for me, I was never going to use a college counselor just because they're expensive. But then I ended up reaching out to one and I answered 200 math questions, and the next day COVID hit. So I never ended up using a college counselor just because I'm not into the whole virtual thing. I'm very hands-on when it comes to learning. So for me, I used Khan Academy, not as much as I wish I did, just because I wanted to set a certain amount of time each day to work on things that I knew I needed help on. And I didn't do it as much as I wanted to, like I said, but the amount of time that I did spend on Khan Academy, I saw results, and they have mock tests and little exams that you can take to see what else you need help on. And I saw that what I worked on through Khan was being improved on in the tests that I was taking. And I was only able to take one SAT just because of COVID, and all the ones I had got canceled. But the one that I did take, I was really happy with my score, and I feel like Khan Academy helped a lot.
What is Khan Academy, Mr. Nuremberg?
You got Ms. Dwyer, you tell them.
Khan Academy, there's all different ways to increase. You can hire a private counselor to or a private tutor to help you with the SAT or the ACT, but Khan Academy links score. It's on the College Board, on your College Board account. It links your test, and it helps your student practice for the SAT. So let's say you struggled with 2 + 2. Khan Academy knows that. You practice 2 + 2 + 2 + 2 until you get it, and then the computer moves on. So it links your exact. So it's a free program that if your child does it, then they will help. It will help. But if they just think about it, if they sign up for it, but don't actually do it, it's not going to help. But so Khan Academy, free SAT.
Right. And it analyzes your PSAT score to to the testing. I was very skeptical of it when it first started, and they're now showing statistics that it does work if you use it. Just as the SAT review book works if you open it. It's all about the time and making sure, the SAT is like a marathon you're going to run, and if you don't practice before the marathon, you're going to get blown out and only run a mile. The SAT review is key. Does anybody have any suggestions for SAT? Mike, I saw you go up with your hand there.
Yeah, so I'd like to talk a little bit about this. I'll try to make it quick. One mistake a lot of people generally make about the SAT is that they believe to get a better score, you have to learn more content or more things. The SAT, it's really a test of basic knowledge, but just done in a very tricky manner. For example, math, it probably only goes up to algebra 2. Reading, I'm not sure, but generally the way College Board works is that they test very basic topics, but try to put many different tricks or try to put many different traps to make you choose the wrong answer. And that's what a lot of people get tricked on. One thing that I like to say is from the art of war, know your enemy in order to do well. One best thing to do is to actually sort of do a lot of practice tests. That's the biggest tip I could give. Of course, you need to know all the knowledge. Like you need to know all of the different basic math skills. But after that, it's all about practice, doing the practice tests, do official practice tests. Don't do ones by the Princeton Review because the official practice tests are the ones that will look most similar to the ones you'll see on test day. For example, College Board published 10 free ones online, I think. And also you could use Khan Academy for practice because Khan Academy, they have an official partnership with College Board. So a lot of their questions are actually very similar. So that's what I recommend. I only did probably like 8 practice tests and that was able to get me to like near perfect. So yeah, that's my biggest tip.
Anybody else? Jane, and then Ethan, and then Taylor, and then we're going to go to our last topic.
Okay, so 2 things. One, I took the test that I submitted in September of my senior year. So if you don't have your score yet and it's June, do not freak out. All my tests were canceled from April to September last year. So the first ACT that I ever took was the only one I had the opportunity to take. And so that was it. That was the score I submitted and it was over. So if you don't have your score yet, do not freak out. It's only June. I had to take my first test in September. So if you don't have it yet, don't freak out. 2, Amazon has really great ACT review books. It's just like a huge thick red book and it has just so many practice tests in it, answer keys in the back. And you just need to have the discipline to just sit yourself down on a Saturday and just devote that time, because if you just sit there and you just say to yourself, I can do this, I can finish this practice test, then you're already halfway there. And then number 3, so the SAT, so I took one of each. I took one SAT and one ACT. For the SAT, I did like older practice tests because they were a lot harder. And so then when I actually got to the real the real SAT, the questions were a lot easier than the practice tests I had been doing, which was like a little bit of a confidence boost. So if you pick older practice tests, they are typically harder. So when you get to the real test, it might seem a little bit easier.
Great suggestion. Ethan?
So like Mike and Jane said, the practice tests are super important because you get into a routine. And then when you get in on test day, it's just like doing it all over again. You've done it so many times. You're just in your zone. Another important tip I can give is for the math section, pay attention in school. Like I know a lot, I tutor for SAT and I'm being completely honest. And I've had a lot of kids who struggle with different basic math principles because they're not always paying attention in school, and you need to know the math to be able to do well on the test. It's important. Then there's another level of figuring your way around the tricky questions and stuff, but no math. You have to be strong in that. And for the grammar and reading sections, my tip would be read books. The more you read and the more well versed you are, the easier it is to just go through those questions and know what's right and wrong. And I know it sounds just so simple, but both of those things are going to help you so much on your SAT.
Can I add something to what you can say?
I really want to go to another topic, Mike.
Okay, then never mind.
Thank you. Okay. I love doing that. So there's two more questions I want, and you can choose whichever one you want. I would like you to think back, I'm talking to the panel, and I'd like everybody to answer this, and I'd like you to think back to your ninth grade self, maybe sitting in Miss Meyer's class, or I don't know who else was the English teacher back then, or if you had Miss Farkas, you were in Farkas's room and you felt the overwhelming, of reading, and give yourself some advice. Or if you don't want to answer that question, then just give a shout out to somebody who helped you. And please do not include me or Ms. Dwyer in this shout out. Just somebody who got you through this time, who you relied on. I know nobody did it themselves. Okay. I do know that. So if you can do both, you can do both and keep it to 30, 45 seconds each. I would like you to go, and I know I saw Priscilla's hand and Robbie, and I'd like each of you to answer this however you can. Just a personal moment. Did I do that right, Ms. Dwyer?
That's great. So if you could call on each kid, that'd be awesome.
All right. But I didn't want to call on somebody who wasn't ready. So some of them think Priscilla's hand went up first, so I'll go with her.
A piece of advice I'd give my freshman self would be, don't compare yourself to what other students are doing. I would feel insecure at times because maybe my schedule or my extracurriculars would look different than my peers. But at the end of the day, just do what you're passionate about. And like people said before, your resume will make itself, and it's your essays and you as a whole that will impress the colleges. And you need to be unique. So don't worry about doing everything exactly the same as everyone else.
Oh, I'm going to add another topic to that. I'm sorry. One more thing. And what would you tell your parent to do different? I'm sorry about that one. Add that in there also. Or just say thank you to your parents. Say that's it. But something to your parents.
Me?
Sure, we're going to go to all of you.
Okay. Something I'd say to parents is just be there. I know from my mom, she was always like, "Oh, what can I help you with?" And as someone that immigrated here, she didn't know the college process as much. It was all on my own. So her just being there to support me was just so helpful to me.
Okay, next, Robbie.
I'm going to combine kind of all three of those questions into this one mishmash response, but really just understanding the importance of balance. One of the things I loved most about Palmetto was that it's a work hard, play hard environment, community. Don't get me wrong, you do need to work hard. You got to work your butt off to achieve the goals that you want, but balance that with making sure you're spending time with your friends and family. I never missed a Friday night family dinner. I'm gonna see laughs on the panel because there have been many plans that I've missed out on because I never missed a Friday night family dinner at Captain's Tavern, and I never missed watching the Jets game Sunday 1:00 with my dad. No tests, no quiz, no anything was more important than that. And at the same time, I knew that on a Tuesday night or Tuesday afternoon, if I had to miss out on going to Chicken Kitchen one afternoon because I needed to study for my AP chemistry test the day after Halloween, thank you, Dr. Sharp, I had to do that. It's all about making a balance, that work hard, play hard environment that Palmetto really does a great job of creating. And I called out Dr. Sharp because I love Dr. Sharp. She's one of my favorite teachers. She, Ms. Farkas, my parents, they were all people who really did help support me, encouraged me to stop studying and go hang out with friends or family, and told me when I really needed to buckle down and get the job done. So
Thank you.
That's what I would.
Okay, Mike?
So I will say, I'll answer the second question about who really supported me. I will say the college application process is sort of a stressful one, especially the essay writing is a really hard one. And I would definitely say my sister is the one who supported me the most throughout this entire process. She would read all of my essays and she would provide very critical feedback. And that was actually very good for me because when you write things yourself, you're obviously biased. You'll be like, oh, I think this is a good idea. I think this is a good idea. And you won't really be able to see like what you maybe like what like in other people's perspectives. They help you see like a wider angle and like stuff like that. So I really I would really definitely like to give a shout out to my sister. I know it's a very stressful process. So like if anybody else needs help on it, I'll be there to help as well if you contact me. So yeah.
Great. Andres.
Sure. So I'll start off with advice for freshmen. If college is your motivating factor, so be it. But don't do things for college. It ties into what Robbie said. You enjoy high school more if you do things that you like. Make sure to spend time with family and friends, of course. You know, that balance is very important. But also the things that you do, you know, use college as a motivator to be more active in things that you like. I think that's a good way to look at it. Pursue things that you like, even if you're like Ms. Dwyer said, if you're not passionate about it, whatever, but do things that you like. Go as far deep into that as you can, and you'll enjoy high school more, and colleges will see that. And then as far as parents, as far as pressuring your kids, I think it depends on the student. I'm not going to go there, but just be there. Like Priscilla said, being there for your kid is probably the most important thing during the college application process. Like if they show you the essay, even if you don't know anything about English, read the essay. Like just read it and then give them your thoughts, even if they don't decide against your advice or whatever. I think that's probably the most important because it is stressful. I won't lie.
Taylor.
Hi guys. So I'll start off with parents. Everyone has a different relationship with their parents and every person has different needs. But I think discussing what you want your plan to be before you go into the college application process can make that relationship a lot smoother because your parents want to be involved and knowing what you're doing, but sometimes you also want a little independence or the stress can just create a lot in the household. So I think establishing that beforehand is really great and just sets like an idea of what you're going to do. And then a really big shout out to my own parents and a good family friend of mine who just allowed me to have really great conversations with them and about myself and my future that helped me discover what I wanted to write about, what I wanted to focus on my application.
Thank you. Ethan.
So I'll start off by giving a shout out to my own mom because she helped me a lot throughout the whole process. And, I think for all the parents out there, it's important to not be too forceful on your kids, I guess. Like my college decision came down between two schools. I was deciding between Michigan and Dartmouth. And I mean, my mom, I never knew what either of my parents wanted. And I think in the end, I decided what I really wanted to do. And I think that helped me a lot. The other thing is the parents know their kids more than anybody else does. You guys know your kids. And I think with essay ideas, my mom helped me with a lot of essay ideas. She helped me with, a lot of essays that I used to get into the schools I got into, and they just they'll help you out along the way. So just be there to help, but let them be free with what they want, I guess would be my advice. And if I was to give some advice to my 9th grade self, it would just be to know that you're going to end up where you're supposed to end up. When I got into Michigan, I thought, okay, cool. There's no chance I'm going here, moving on to the next school. And, I didn't get into a lot of schools that I thought I would get into. And I got into some schools that I didn't think I would get into also. It works both ways. And it's important to know that we all have our unique stories and we're all going to get in where we get in or whatever. But, you're going to end up where you're supposed to be. Don't stress it too much. You're going to end up happy. College is amazing, even though I'm not there yet. I already know. But just be excited for it. Don't be scared, and just take it on as it goes.
Great. Alexis.
Advice that I give to my freshman self would be just to not worry about the people around me and to worry about myself and what I'm doing. Because I think, like, I went in freshman year in a lower level math than everybody else that I knew. And I was like really insecure about that, but I'm not good at math and I know that. So I like pushed myself a lot so that I could get to taking AP math classes that I didn't really need to be taking. And I let other people influence me in the classes that I was taking. So I wouldn't do that again. I would just like do what I want to do and take the classes that I know that I can take instead of letting other people influence me. And a shout out to Mr. Spiegelman, because I had him for 3 years in a row. And he's such a good teacher. He taught me so much. And even though I didn't always like pass every test or do well on everything, I was always able to learn something in his class.
Great. Thank you. Sophia.
So I think that one piece of advice that I wish I knew earlier was don't really set yourself for one specific college or one specific program, because there are situations where you will be let down and you won't get into that program, because rejection is a big part of the college application process. It's not like it just doesn't exist. It does, and it does hurt badly, but you do get used to it. And in the end, you know that you're going to end up wherever you're meant to be, and you're going to be insanely happy, and you're going to do amazing things wherever you end up. And for the parents to be patient through the process and to just be supportive and not necessarily add pressure onto your students. I mean, you might not even do it without thinking, but just always be encouraging and supportive and tell your kids how proud you are of them. I know with my parents, there were some times where I had to be like, okay, let's take a step back. This is a lot of pressure on me. And then we would reevaluate, and then they would be so supportive for everything that I wanted. But yeah.
Thank you. Jade.
Okay, so a piece of advice that I would give myself or other underclassmen is that it's important to show up to these Zooms and expose yourself to the college making process, but you don't have to dwell on it too much when it comes to choosing a college. In the college making process, as you get to be a senior, when you start researching schools, you end up learning a lot about both schools and a lot about yourself. So when you do that research, whether it be like internally or whether it be like scouring college websites, you're going to start to realize what you like in colleges and things that you don't like. And those are things that you would not have known prior to the college making process. And as for parents, I would say it's important to be there for your kids in the ways that you can, even if it's a little unconventional, because this process it's not a very familiar thing, especially for our parents. What my mom would do for me, which I found very helpful, is when she knew I had an essay to write or a form to fill out, she would just be like, okay, let's sit down. She would just sit down and sit next to me and work with me, and that helped me out a lot. She'd be like doing taxes or like reading casework, and I would just be sitting there and working next to her, and just having someone like working with you and being in that environment with you helps you focus and like feel like it feels very collaborative, and that helped me like de-stress a lot.
Great. Anything else? Okay, McKenna.
I would tell my freshman self that I don't have to be as rigid to be successful in high school. Of course, I should have some type of plan, but also enjoy my friends, because when senior year comes around and we pick the colleges that we're going to, we can all be spreading out to different parts of the world and the country and may not see each other as much. For my parents, I think they did a good job of understanding sometimes when I was overwhelmed and helping me in that. But I would say that my biggest motivators, I would say, were my friends, because we were always encouraging yet honest. And we always had some type of like subtle, friendly competition going on that would always push us to be better.
Thank you. Jane, I don't know, guys. I'm guessing on who's left. So
I'm keeping track. Jane.
Thank you, Jane.
Okay, I'll do the parent advice first. So my dad went to Vanderbilt. He got a 1080 on his SAT. So he likes to remind me of that because I literally got rejected and he does all the interviews for all my friends there. So that was fantastic. So just as a reminder to the parents, high school is really different right now than when everyone else went. So just like bear in mind that like however hard you think this process is, it's probably like 50 times more difficult than that. So just like keep your expectations, just maybe like keep them to yourself. So just be there for when we're crying, be there for when we're stressed out. Ethan doesn't do either of those. He's just chill, but I cried a lot. So just keep in mind that this is like high school is very different now. And so this is really competitive and it's really stressful. And some of us did not just get 1080s and get into Vanderbilt. That is not how it went for me. So just keep in mind that this is really difficult for us to just be there. My shout outs, definitely Mr. Spiegelman, and Miss Marseille and Miss Schlackman. They all three saved my life. And so if you have the opportunity, if you like know what classes they teach, take their classes. You will not regret it. They are the best three people ever. Advice to my freshman self, do not wait until the day before to start studying for all your AP tests. Don't do that. Your teachers will know. Miss Farkas came up to me the day before the AP World Test and she was like, "Why are you at school? I know you haven't started studying yet." And I was like, "You are correct." So I went home and I watched the 100 videos that the day before that we were supposed to be watching for like 3 months. I watched them all the day before. So don't do that. And then you'll probably be fine. So.
Kayla and then Marina. I think that's it.
Thank you.
So advice that I would give my freshman self would definitely not to stress over the little things because this too shall pass. And everyone always tries to prepare you for how high school goes by in the blink of an eye, but I don't think anything can truthfully prepare you for how fast it really goes. So just live in the moment and enjoy the little things, because if you doubt yourself for 1 second, nothing ever works in your favor and everything happens for a reason. And that's definitely advice I would give myself always, not just freshman year. And advice for parents would be that to just let your children do it at their own pace, because no matter what, it's a learning process and it takes failure to get to success. And I'll never forget, I went to go fill out the Silver Knight application and I saw how big it was and how much other homework and other things I had to do and I work. And I went over to my mom and I was like, "Nope, not doing it." And my mom was just like, "Just try it. If you don't get it, it's okay. But at least you know you filled it out and you did your best." So definitely when you see your kids getting discouraged, just give them that little push, because at least for me, nothing else matters more than my parents' opinions.
Sweet. Okay, and only I'm going to interrupt before we go to Marina. I forgot to mention that Kayla and Mike Zhao were honorable mention Silver Knight. Did I forget any others? I just want to make sure I didn't forget that because I mean we kicked butt in Silver Knight this year. And Marina, you want to end it?
Sure. So my advice to parents is to remember that although we're 18, 17-year-olds, sometimes we get overwhelmed too. So when you go tell me to pick up my room and I'm dealing with like all these things at the same time, I'm going to give attitude and I'm going to talk back because I'm just stressed out. So to remember that we also get stressed out, but you guys are also our support system. So at least for me, like every time my mom would tell me like, just sit there and tell me I'm proud of you, I'd look at her and be like, "Oh my God, like you're so weird." But it does feel good to hear that sometimes. So be supportive of your children. My shout out is to Ethan for being my emotional support system throughout high school, because I'm a little bit of a wreck sometimes, but he was always there for me, either helping me with calc or just like talking about life until like 4 a.m. So thanks for that. And my advice to my freshman self is, at least for me, it was a little bit different. I would tell my freshman self, go out, have more fun. It does not have to be a Friday night and you're there studying Miss Farkas's AP World cards. You can go out with friends and still get the A and be absolutely fine. So definitely like putting myself out there more, which I definitely learned throughout high school. When I got to my junior year, I think I made a good balance of like social life and academics. But I would definitely like tell the freshmen that are watching this now, and at least like the sophomores too, to find a balance between academics and your social life. It doesn't always have to be academics, and it can't always be social life too. You have to find the medium in between.
That's awesome. We're going a little long, but before we do, I'm not going to cry. Robbie, did you want to say something?
I did. I know that I speak for all of the students, at least on the panel, and really all 750 seniors in the class of 2021, and every senior before us that Mr. Nurnberg was there to really mentor, inspire, and help. We know that this is your last secret sauce, but we really do appreciate everything that you do for us at the school and the community. We really would be lost and we couldn't have done it without you. It doesn't even have to be about the college counseling, but many of us have found ourselves in your room, crying, smiling, cheering, or just joking in the hallway. You really are the light of Palmetto, so we really appreciate you.
Thank you, Robbie. Thank you, guys. Ms. Dwyer, stop crying.
I'm not even begun to start crying. Are you kidding me?
You know, as we end this, I know we're over, and I know there's still people staying on. Not many people have left. You guys, I laugh because in previous sauces, the parents sometimes got a little more slammed. But I think because you all spent so much time with your parents over this past year, I mean, this was like the craziest year possible that anybody could have. And we also were in the home a year ago. We weren't walking out of our houses. You guys just, you know, your tests were being canceled. So when the parents and the juniors who are listening to this and anybody else, these guys went through what nobody went through. Thank goodness, healthy. I think most of us did okay. But what you guys did on the college application process, and there's more of you, the whole senior class did an amazing job. But the fact that you did what you did this year, totally, I am in awe of you. And you deserve all the accolades you received and all the great decisions you received. And it's absolutely my pleasure. As I end this career, I couldn't have asked for anything more. I don't believe I could, you know, the Zoom meetings we had with some of the people and the conferences, the different kind of ways we did it. But you all totally, and I've said this to you in class, amazed me. So for the people watching, these guys, I know you'd be getting a standing ovation right now. So if everybody wants to get up off their bed and stand up and cheer for themselves, you know, you guys are just amazing. And that's the only word I can come up with. I'm lost for words when it comes to what you guys have done this year. So for the parents and the students who've been watching, thank you for staying with us and watching it. I know there's some parents here watching. Of all of you, thank you for your children. You know, I can't wait till Wednesday and see you walk across the aisle. And just remember, when you walk across the stage, take your time, revel in it, okay? And know that you are absolutely the best, okay? Parents and the students who are watching, thank you. I would ask you to leave out the back door, please, because I'd like to talk to them for a second. So thank you very much for coming to the Secret Sauce this year. And somebody just actually entered. So I'm going to let him in, but thank you guys. Thank you all for coming tonight. I hope you enjoyed it. And it will be live on Facebook. I did not push the record button, but it is live on my Facebook page. So
That was awesome. I think that was the best sauce ever, you guys. That was perfection. I loved every minute.